It gives me great pleasure now to present another interesting presenter, speaker from Dubai as well. He's a local Emirati who has achieved great strides in his profession. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Suleiman Abdullah, who is a Procurement and Contracts Manager at the Telecommunication and Digital Government Regulatory Authority. Mr. Abdullah has a lot of experience in this type of industry. He is a strong proponent of technology. And again, this is very encouraging to hear his message to us today, because clearly digital technology is here to stay, enabling the conditions and facilities not only of infrastructure in companies, but in terms of the government infrastructure, is very important to us. Mr. Abdullah, thank you very much for spending your time with us today and for sharing your thoughts. It's a pleasure to be with us. Please share with us your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joy, for the quick introduction. And really thank you for giving us this opportunity, myself, to present. I hope to add value to the audience. Just a quick question, Joy. My presentation is clear? I mean,
it is very clear. Perfect. You've got a full screen on. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you, everyone. Today, I'll take you to talk about the importance and the value of digital transformation and the importance of technology in driving value to the organization. But before I start, let's ask ourselves a question. Can technology itself drive transformation? Can technology itself add value to the organization? And I think I will highlight some important points related to this journey. Digital transformation. A study says that more than 50% of organizations have not yet actively started to build a roadmap for supply chain digital transformation. So my question to all of us, do we have a digital transformation roadmap built in our organization? If we did not build one, we need to have one plan. Because if you don't have a plan for digital transformation, you will be soon outdated. Now, let me highlight an important point when it comes to procurement and supply chain professionals. In 200s and earlier, the old model of factory used to be focused on compliance, adherent to process and procedures, providing the correct services, efficiency. However, nowadays, it's more about agility. It's more about the value added to the organization. It's about the quality. It's about competitive advantages. It's about innovation. So if you don't have a digital transformation plan or adopting technology to drive this change, you will not be able to lead the change and bring value in terms of innovation, new ideas, value, competitive advantage to technology, to the organization. So technology is an important enabler to procurement, excellence, and value to the organization. If we talk about procurement operations transformation, we have to understand that we are talking about three main elements. So technology is not the only element to drive value. Yes, technology is an important and critical enabler to drive this change and to bring value. However, we need to focus also on process and people. Now, if you ask me, what is the most important enabler among these three, I would say people. Because if you don't have a good people in the organization, you will end up having a good technology, a good process, but nobody can make use of it. Focus on upskilling your people within the organization. Focus on adapting change methodology within your organization. Today, people are being requested not only to understand their category, I'm talking about procurement and supply chain professionals. They're also being asked to be expert in the category and understand the language of the business requirement. Today, cloud, networking, infrastructures, application are not only terminologies associated to IT, for example. As a procurement professionals and supply chain, we need to understand these languages as well. So focus on people, understand the technology, and understand that you need to re-engineer your processes. I have many organizations, when I discuss with them about the procurement transformation, some of them goes and buy the best technology with their rigid processes. So if you have a rigid process, you will bring a rigid technology. Technology today had, especially in the procurement environment, it's data-enabled technologies, and procurement technology are really evolved more than 5-10 times. So whenever you have a plan for digital transformation, focus on 3 main pillars: adopt a change methodology and drive this change. Now, another important point about the value from the technology. It's a journey, gentlemen. You cannot just wake up in the morning and buy a system and say that I need a value from this system and ROI within 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, especially for a big projects. It's a journey. So my first advice is start assessing yourself as an organization. Where do you stand? Do you still have paper-based processes? You cannot just jump from paper-based processes to adopt an artificial intelligence technology and convince yourself that I'll get a value from this journey. It's a process. So still, if you still have a paper-based process, you have to understand that you have to automate these processes in order to get the highest value from the technology you're buying or implementing, which has an AI maybe features in it. So it's a journey. It takes time. Understand that, because most of the professionals, when I discuss with them, they come up with that I don't have time. It simply needs time. But if you still in this stage using a paper-based processes, it's late. So you need to understand how to move forward. Digital procurement strategy focusing mainly on 2 things: improve customer experience, which eventually will lead to cost optimization. When I talk about improving customer experience, at the end, it's a value you're driving to the organization. Focus what your customer needs. Focus how to simplify the process to them. Focus how to add value to him. Focus how to bring a new ideas will eventually ease the process to him. All these thoughts will lead to your cost optimization. If you focus that, we're not talking about cost reduction anymore. Cost optimization means, as a procurement professional supply chain, you need to focus on a holistic view. We're talking about total cost of ownership. So it's not about a one-stage process where I can negotiate and reduce the price. It's from the start till the end. Now, let's talk about agility. I think this is a famous terminology being used nowadays. And I want to highlight that before 2019, procurement leaders has been asked to focus on cost, reducing cost. Now, we have been asked to bring value. Now, there are different terminologies about agility, but I have came up with a business meaning of agility. Maybe it's about the time that you need to focus on as short as possible between the business requirement and the benefit realization to the organization. Agility is something will not come only by buying technology. It's technology, agility in people thoughts, agility in your processes. I think COVID-19 was a really test, a real example to all of us, successful organization, how agile they were in adopting this risk and change when you're talking about technology, process, and people. This is an example about an agile process and a model called waterfall, which is the traditional process when buying, let's say, a system. A traditional way, I think most of the organization adopting this method when buying a technology or a systems, where they plan and then define and then design and build and test and deploy, and then at the end run the system where the value is being created at the end of the chain. This is a sequential. I think most of the IT leaders understand this sequential processes as a traditional process used by most of the organization. But when you talk about agility, it's different. The value is being captured in very earlier stage. And the reason we have to adapt with the agility because the technology is really evolving faster and faster and faster. In agility or in agile model, you start with the planning and then development, and then it's called sprint. Some people call it phase in, phase out stage. Some people say stage wise, stage 1, 2, 3, 4, different meaning. However, you start releasing phases of that product. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5, and then you run the whole system. If you notice that the value is being created from phase 1 till phase 5. Now, in the waterfall model, does not mean is a model we cannot adopt, but we can adopt these traditional model maybe in a small projects, not complex projects. But when it's longer projects or big projects, if you don't have the agility mindset or agile mindset, it will take much longer time to get the value that's being expected or anticipated by the organization. This requires a high level of collaboration between all parties: finance, the business units, procurement, contract, supply chain, maybe external parties. It requires also agility in budgeting, agility in our processes and project management, a high level of commitment. I think an example I can provide to audience is when you're buying like an ERP system. So instead of waiting, for example, as a sequential plan till the end of the chain and go live with the systems, maybe you can start releasing, for example, every module separately. For example, if you're buying an ERP system, we start, for example, supply relationship management systems to be released in phase 1, then sourcing module to be released in phase 2, and so on. So the value is being created during the whole journey till the whole system is being live. Couple of thoughts I'll present it to you, but before talking about a couple of thoughts, I want all our procurement professionals and supply chain to understand that change is coming, and we need to change our mindset and think about ourselves as agents of change. Change is scary, and but it's adding value. Technology is bringing change, and we have to change. And I think a good example, common example of change is the mobile device that we have. If you think about all the products and features available in this mobile device In the traditional way, we used to carry out maybe 5 to 7 different devices. Agent of change, I think, a methodology that we need to adopt in ourselves in order to derive value. Couple of thoughts about value driven to the organization. Today, procurement and contract professionals are not requested only to make an LPO or how compliant you are to the manual procedures, processes. We need to bring value. So you need to change your mindset from being compliance agent to value generation. Cheapest is not always the best. If you keep buying on a lower price for sake of meeting your KPIs or your objective is not any more sufficient. Think about value generation. I think as a procurement professionals, we're really lucky to be in procurement because I think COVID-19, and I truly believe that procurement can really drive change in the organization. But a mindset needs to be changed. We are not anymore reducing cost. We need to think about bringing value to the organization. An important element, I think, to drive value to the organization is we need to adopt a service provider mindset in procurement. Because the more you think about being as a service provider agent, you will think about satisfying your customer. You will think about bringing new ideas to satisfy your customers. You will think about adding value. You will think about innovation. You will think about better ways of doing things out of the box. So stop being compliance agent, because this will not take you to generate value. I'm not saying policy procedures are not important. They are important. But much important is to drive value to the organization, where you have to adopt a change mindset within the organization and change mindset culture within the organization, and especially in the procurement and supply chain area. This is an important point when it comes to technology. I think I recently have a discussion with one of my colleagues, and we're talking about cloud and on-premise systems, and cloud is better, cost effective, or whatever. So many elements we have discussed about, but an important point to understand is cloud is not a recipe for all problems or challenges that we have in the organization. As I mentioned, technology, yes, is an important, critical enabler. However, you have people and processes to focus on. All of them underlined under a strategy to drive this change and adding value to the organization. This is my last slide. I use this phrase commonly with whoever I really discuss with them and share my experience, that if everyone is trying to help his colleague or try to share any information, any knowledge he knows to other parties, I think the value that we are going to bring in this world is really huge. So I have, Joy, a couple of advices to my colleagues and procurement and professionals and leaders.
Okay. If I could ask you a few questions, because obviously you touched on some very, very important points about procuring technology, adapting technology, driving the people factor to change. But in your experience in this journey that you described, moving from the legacy, traditional ways of thinking, of system, etc., to the agile, dynamic thinking and solutions. How do we change mindsets? And you keep on referring to mindset as fundamental, which is absolutely correct. But what is necessary to drive this change, and how can organizations, what should organizations do to focus on mindset to accommodate this new generation of systems, of thinking, of agility?
Very good question, Joy, and similar questions being asked maybe more frequently. And I discuss with the people and tell them that I think most important point to drive this change is the mindset of people to be changed. So first is people. That's why in my presentation I highlighted that the importance to focus on people. If people has the resistance to change, you can bring the best technology in the world, the best processes, best consultants. If there is no people to adopt this, there is no value.
Correct.
I think COVID-19 really, even it had really a negative impact on so many people, but it really helped the procurement professionals and so many organizations to accelerate the change and digitalization roadmap within the organization. So if you ask me, adapting to change is a critical path. This is one point. I think the second point, Joy, is we need to lead it by example. You always need to start by yourself. If you don't evolve, don't improve yourself, you cannot improve others, you cannot improve the organization. Start with yourself, and then you can lead this change.
That's very wise advice. But Suleiman, in your role as procurement, guru in this area, how do you know when you're selecting the right technology? Because again, as you said, technology is the driver of the change, is the enabler of change.
Yeah.
But sometimes if you get the wrong technology, it can also create a disconnect in the whole organization. Where is that equilibrium between the right technology and the right balances of processes and people come in?
Good. I think it starts with asking ourselves why. Why am I buying this technology? What is the objective of this technology to buy it? When you start asking yourself why, you will understand what exactly you need and what you also have to focus on, to drive this value. So start with why, a purpose, why you are buying this. And then I think the second point, Joy, a really intensive collaboration with suppliers and internal stakeholders. I still see, I think there is a gap between the collaboration between the suppliers and our business and procurement. This lead time to be shortened by a high level of collaboration. I always say this is not only competition. If you want to derive value, you have to adopt completion model. So it's not about competition, it's about completion. We complete each other. So you need to have that kind of collaboration relationship between all parties in order to select the appropriate technology.
Very interesting, Suleiman. I wish we had more time to discuss this further, but we have run out of time, and I really appreciate very much your deep insights and your time, especially in being with us today. I hope that next year we can be in Dubai, and we would like to continue this conversation with you. Inshallah. So inshallah, next year we might see you face-to-face in Dubai and continue the next level of our journey forward. Meanwhile, inshallah, thank you so much for your time, and all the very best wishes to you in your programs and in your journey in this transformation world of ours.
Thank you very much, Joy. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Bye.